Welcome to the Colig Experience episode. Today, we're diving into bold insights, experimentation, and groundbreaking leadership strategies. We're exploring the fascinating world of decision-making, from ancient practices like those of Ashurbanipal, the last great Assyrian king, to modern clashes between data-driven and intuition-based approaches. Get ready to learn how embracing diverse styles can lead to powerful outcomes. Let's start. Ashurbanipal was the last great Assyrian king, 669 to 631 BCE. He ruled over Babylon, Elam, and even Egypt. Unusually for a king in those days, he was literate and left behind a large library of significant historical and scientific value. Among other things, Ashurbanipal's library gives us a glimpse into the decision-making processes of ancient world leaders. When a king or leader wanted to make an important decision, they consulted experts who specialized in predicting the future. How did they do it? There were various techniques. One common method, evidence of which was found in our friend Ashurbanipal's library, was reading animal livers. Special signs found on the liver of the unfortunate animal, usually a sheep, allowed experts to predict the future and recommend courses of action to the king. In this famous library, descriptions of thousands of different liver conditions were found that experts used for their predictions. Sound strange? Rightfully so. We live in an era that sanctifies data collection and data-driven decision-making. We can't understand the connection between the condition of a random animal's liver and what will happen in the future. But we certainly do understand the connection between data we've collected from past reality and what might happen in the future. Logical. Is it, though? We already know we're not as rational as we'd like to think. Many times our decisions are based on intuition. For some people, that's their primary decision-making style. Let's note that our brain is constantly trying to predict the future and make decisions based on these predictions. It absorbs what's happening in the environment through our senses. What it absorbs, it categorizes into familiar patterns, and thus infers what's likely to happen. When the future becomes the present, our brain updates its cognitive models. This process happens at multiple levels in the brain, some unconscious and rapid, what we call intuition. Research shows that the more knowledge and experience we have in a specific field, the more complex cognitive models our brain builds, and thus our intuitive decisions improve. Different decision-making styles are an endless source of conflict between managers and within management teams. Some make their best decisions on the spot, while others will only decide after a deep and thorough investigation process. Some need factual verification and data support to decide, while others only need the big picture to move forward with a decision. In our conversations with managers and executives, we often hear about their struggles with how decisions are made in their organizations. Those with a tendency for quick, intuitive decisions find it difficult to deal with slow, cumbersome processes that eventually lead to a decision they already knew from the start. Meanwhile, those with a calculated and rational style struggle with what they perceive as shooting from the hip without substantiation or justification. We recently worked with a software development team where the CTO and the product manager were constantly at odds. The CTO, with her engineering background, insisted on thorough data analysis and testing before making any product changes. The product manager, however, had an uncanny intuition about user needs based on years of experience. When he suggested removing a feature that metrics showed was being used, the CTO balked, but his intuition proved correct. Removing it actually improved overall user engagement. Neither approach was wrong, but their inability to appreciate each other's decision-making style created unnecessary tension. It turns out that although both of these decision-making mechanisms exist together in each of our brains and feed each other, in reality, we sometimes find it difficult to accommodate a decision-making style different from our own. The conflict intensifies when one side, or both, has a strong tendency toward a certain decision style and tries to convince the other side to adopt their approach. This, of course, never works. We say, flip it around. Instead of trying to convince the other side to change, try to learn from them. Instead of getting angry and accumulating frustration from strange decision-making, try to be curious and ask questions. Try to get inside the other person's head. You know what? Be humble. If, for example, your CEO has a decision-making style very different from yours, it would be very ineffective to try to convince them to think like you. But if you put aside your ego and the desire to be right for a moment and tell yourself, well, this person has accomplished a few things in life. Maybe their way of making decisions isn't as crazy as I think. Maybe I have something to learn from them too. In a biotech company we advised, a senior scientist was frustrated with the seemingly hasty decisions made by the VP of operations regarding manufacturing processes. Rather than fighting each recommendation, we encouraged the scientist to shadow the VP for a day. He was surprised to discover that what seemed like snap judgments were actually based on patterns the VP had observed across hundreds of similar situations throughout his career. The scientist gained a new appreciation for experience-based intuition, while the VP learned to better articulate the reasoning behind his decisions. Who knows, maybe you'll manage to train the less developed parts of your brain and thus expand your cognitive toolkit. And in any case, to avoid risk, always keep an animal liver within reach, just in case. And that's the wrap for today's podcast. We explored how ancient and modern decision-making styles can coexist, showcasing the benefits of blending data-driven and intuitive approaches. Stay tuned for more updates.